Yo, you guys, this is Blacklist of the Abyss, and you're watching my review for Magical Girl Raising Project, also known as Maho Shoujo Ikusei Keikaku. Alright, now if you've watched any of my reviews in the past, anime episode reviews, chapter reviews, you know that it usually starts with me giving a summary of stuff that happens, and when I get to something that needs to be broken down, I break it down. Alright, that is not how this video is going to go. Okay, because as much as this show tries to be Madoka, it's not Madoka. Okay, this review is not going to have the same structure as some of my previous reviews do. I am going to give a rating at the end of it, and I guess you could allow this video to serve as a recommendation of sorts, depending on whether you have or have not seen the series already. I'm going to try to avoid spoilers, but there's going to be one instance in particular where I need to spoil something. I would argue that there's no such thing as a major spoiler in this entire show because nothing is ever given the development to actually be considered a major spoiler. Okay. And I would also argue that there aren't many things that have such an impact on the little story that there is to also warrant being called a major spoiler. But there is a incredibly minor spoiler that I am going to talk about at some point, and I will let you know when I do talk about it. Um, but this video is essentially going to tell you that Magical Girl Raising Project is not a good series, and the reason why is because it doesn't really do much of anything, really. I mean, you can look at the story, but there isn't much of one there. All you know are that there are these girls who became magical girls with an app, and for some reason, this thing trying to be Kyubey is making them fight each other. Why he's doing this? I mean, it does eventually kind of get revealed at like the end of the series when all of the fighting is pretty much over, so it ends up becoming irrelevant. I mean, not really irrelevant. I mean, it's always technically relevant, but I'm saying that when most of the fighting's over, it's kind of late at that point to be telling us why it's all happened. You know, it kind of makes it hard to care when it's when you don't even know why it's happening in the first place. Okay, but that's the story of this entire series, really. Um, that it'll do a little bit and then just never give you enough of anything, whether it be the story, the characters, the world building, whatever. It never does enough. And for the record, that isn't a spoiler, by the way, because it actually gets revealed in like the very beginning of episode 1. Like literally, they have a scene that lets you know this is not going to be lollipops and rainbows and roses and crap. Okay, it lets you know like this is going to eventually get dark. Okay, so that's not even a spoiler to say that they all end up fighting each other, because that's what it tells you right away. That this is going to get crazy at some point very, very soon. Okay, but it never really actually explains why it's happening. The little thing whose name I don't remember, because if you've watched the series, you know that none of the characters actually get any real development at all until either right before they're about to die or right after they're going to die, which is a complete waste. I mean, that the entire point of killing off a character is so that it hits people emotionally, so that it impacts their perception of the story. But if you're not going to develop a character until after they die, then you're not going to actually care about the moment when they die. Okay, I mean, it. In most cases, after a character dies, and if you didn't care about them, you're like, okay, well, I'm done. And you wash your hands of the character, and that's it. And then if they try to develop them after that, you're like, well, I don't. Why would I waste my time even paying attention to this? Why would I waste my time allowing myself to care about someone who I know is never coming back and they're dead and gone? Like that just doesn't make sense, right? So if a character dies and then you learn about them after that, it just doesn't hit you. It just doesn't. And the perfect example of this, and this is where the spoiler comes in, okay? The perfect example of this is Top Speed, who was one of the few characters whose name I actually remember. Okay, the little mascot character in this series, who who I refer to as the thing trying to be Kyubey. Okay, I don't remember its name because that's what happens with a lot of the characters in this series. You just don't remember their name because none of them get any development at all, and it's just they all blend together. The first few episodes of this series, I can't remember half the things that happen because there's such a large cast and none of them get fleshed out at all in those first few episodes. They just all mesh together. And half the time I thought one character and this other character was the same character, and then I realized later on, like, wait, they're different? What? That's a different person? And it's just horrible. The characters are developed so poorly. Okay, it's just there is no development at all. And the little development that happens right when they die or after they die, which is when Top Speed comes into it, okay? Because there are points when you see Top Speed talking to Ripple, and she says that when everyone starts to realize that people are going to die, she says that if I'm going to die, I have to make sure I at least last for 6 months. I can't die before then. And that's all they tell you the entire time. And you're like, well, what's so special about 6 months from now? Is it your parents' birthday or anniversary or something? Is there's some event you have to go to that's really important? I mean, what is it about 6 months from now that's so important, you know? And it's not until after she dies, and again, everything just kind of meshes together with this series. Even if you're marathoning it, it's going to be worse. But even when you're watching it week by week, the episodes still just all mesh together. All right, so it might have been later on in that same episode. It might have even been a completely different episode later on. But after she dies, there is a flashback where it shows her talking to Ripple, and it essentially, or maybe she wasn't even talking to Ripple. But again, mesh, okay, but. And I could have gone back and like done the research to make sure that I remembered everybody's names and that I make sure I remember every single fact. But if I did that, it would defeat the entire point of my argument, which is that nothing in the show is developed well enough for you to actually remember any of it. Okay, including the characters. There's an entire cast of characters here. There's like 50 of these people, and you don't remember like any of them. Off the top of my head, I can remember Top Speed, Ripple, Snow White, La Pucelle, and Swim and Cranberry. Okay, 6 people I remember, and there's like there are the twins whose name I don't remember. There's like the dog girl whose name I don't remember. There's the nun girl and the girl who was with her. Then Ruler, I remember Ruler. Okay, but like there's this whole entire slew of characters. The girl who has the same voice as Kuroko from Railgun and Index, and then the girl that she was working with. There are all these people whose names I cannot remember for the life of me, including the mascot character because they're developed so poorly. All right, so that's part of the point. I could have looked up their names. I chose not to because that would defeat the purpose of the point. Okay, keep in mind I just watched the final episode like 2 days ago. And I still can't remember all these characters' names. Okay, I still can't remember them. The freaking Half Dead girl got name dropped in that episode, and I still can't remember her name. I just saw her name 2 days ago, and I still can't remember. Okay, that's how bad the series is letting you remember things. Okay, but anyway, after Top Speed dies, there is a flashback where she essentially reveals to the viewers that she's pregnant. Okay, and that is why she cannot die until after 6 months from now. Okay, and that information is completely useless to you after she dies, because then, well, you know, that's a sad thing, right? But why would you waste your time caring about that? Why would it affect you at all in any way after she's dead? Like, you get this brief second, you're like, oh man, that sucks. But okay, but then it's over, it's gone. Then you're focusing on other stuff going on. Okay, like something small like that actually means a lot. Okay, knowing that this girl, if they had told us this before she had died, all right, if they had told us this, and again, maybe they mentioned it in those first few episodes where everything just meshes together, and it's just before the major stuff really starts going down, because there are points where it looks like stuff's about to go down, okay, and then it just doesn't. Okay, I mean it does, but not to the degree that it gets to later on. Okay, but those first like 3-4 episodes, everything meshes together. You don't know who the characters are, and maybe at some point there was some throwaway line about her wanting to start a family or something where it could have hinted at what the 6-month event was. Okay, but it's not done well enough for you to remember unless you know going into it that there is something happening. And like, unless you know ahead of time, it's just not going to register and you're not going to remember because they don't do a good enough job at making you remember. Okay, but if they had actually revealed this secret to us before she had died that she was pregnant, then that's going to hit a lot of people because it's this pretty simple thing to look forward to, right? This a desire to want to start a family, to bring a life into the world and raise that life together with your husband or wife, or depending on if you're a guy or a girl, and depending on a lot of things. If running to raise a child with someone, that's a pretty basic human desire, and it's because of how simple it is that it's so powerful, because pretty much everybody in the entire world, pretty much everybody can relate to that. All right, so when you let us know that there's a character who's pregnant and they just can't wait to bring this life into the world, but then they find out that there's a chance they could die, that's you're gonna end up caring. All right, and you might not, it might not be like a Jiraiya level please don't die, like it might not hit you like that, but still, like you're gonna end up saying like, come on, you don't have to kill her off. I mean, come on, let her survive to the end. I mean, come on, like you're still gonna care at least a little bit, you know. But because they chose not to reveal until after she died, it ends up having no effect on you at all. And that's what happens with every single character in this show. Okay, that's what happens with every character. You don't care until it's too late, and at that point, you're not going to waste your time caring because there's nothing left to care about. They're gone. It's over, right? So the characters in the show are not good. The story in this show is not good, not only because the stuff going on in the story involves characters you don't care about, but because they don't care enough to actually tell you what the story is. They just drop you down there in the middle of the story, and you're like, well, what? Who is this mascot person? What is its goal in doing all of this? All we know is that it told us at some point early on, like, oh, there are too many magical girls, and we need to cut you down. All right. Cut, when he says cut you down, I don't mean literally. I mean he says we need to we need to have less magical girls, so we're going to start eliminating people, but they don't know at first that they're going to die. That comes in later. I say that, but it's like episode 2 or 3, so I say it's later. It's not really later, okay? But still, it's the story. It's just so, you're sitting there wondering this entire time, like, okay, so is this guy just evil or something? Like, is he trying to harvest them for their energy or something? Like, is this some type of cubing like goal? What? Why is he trying to kill off these magical girls? Why? That doesn't make why, and you don't know. You don't know until like episode 7 or 8 or something like that. That's when you finally realize that there's some connection between him and this other person, and then you get little hints dropped at, like, in a couple episodes here and there towards the end about maybe this is what they're trying to do, and then you hear about the Raising Project, and you're like, why? And then this is where the world building comes in, where apparently towards the end of the series you learn about there's this entire world of magic users and all this stuff, and you're like, well, where was that? We're at the end of the series now. We're at the end of the series. You didn't develop any of this. Alright, so Magical Girl Raising Project, it just doesn't do enough in literally any aspect of what makes a story good. It just doesn't. You can make the argument that there are a couple good fights here and there that last for a couple minutes. So if you're the type of person who likes random violence between characters you know nothing about because of reasons that aren't going to be explained to you at all in any way until the end of the series when it's too late for you to care, then maybe you might like this series. Okay? Maybe. Alright? But if you're gonna watch a show just for the fights, this is not the show to watch. It is not. You should go watch Fate Zero or Unlimited Blade Works or something. You should go watch a show that's known for its fights and how good they are. There are plenty of action shows out there. There are plenty of Shonen and Seinen out there that have phenomenal fights in them. Okay? This is not the show to watch. Okay? There's like I can think of maybe 2 fights that are actually legitimately good. maybe three. Okay, and they don't last for very long. So there's no point in you sitting through 12 episodes of a series, 4 hours of your life taken up by watching a show just to get 4 minutes out of it that could maybe kind of almost be a little bit acceptable to you. That doesn't make sense. Okay, this show has a story that is below average and not well developed, characters that are below average and not developed, a world that is below average and not developed. Everything about this show is below average and not developed, except for except for the main character. Okay, and you might be thinking, oh, does that mean the main character is good? No, I mean this in the complete opposite way. The character is so bad, she is worse than below average, okay? She is one of the worst main characters I have ever seen. She is the single most useless character I have ever seen in any manga or anime, okay? There are characters who are famous because of how useless they are, and she is worse than all of them combined. Okay, you could remove this main character, whose name I don't even remember, by the way. I just remember her Snow White moniker. Okay, I only remember her magical girl name. I don't remember her actual name. I don't remember the real names of any of these people. None of them. Okay, I remember some of their magical girl names, but as far as the real names go, none of them. Okay, but with Snow White, she is so intoxic. She is so completely useless. Okay, that you could remove her from the entire series, and the story and the overall flow of what happened in the story would not be affected at all in any way. That is how inconsequential this girl is. Okay, she means literally nothing. Okay, she doesn't get directly involved in like any conflict. Okay, she's completely inconsequential and she's completely useless. Yet, whenever she does have an interaction with someone, they always treat her like she's just this incredible magical girl. And wow, can you believe how amazing she is? She's definitely the one to watch out for. But why? She hasn't done anything. She's so incredibly horrible, and it's frustrating because she is just like the most cookie cutter magical girl character you could possibly think of, and it's every time I see her face, I just get annoyed, and it's horrible. Because the one good thing about the show that I mentioned earlier on, how it has a good thing about it. Okay, the one good thing about this show is Westground. Okay, Nano and Westground do both the opening and the ending for this show. Okay, and Nano is freaking awesome. Okay, Nano, Westground, they're freaking awesome. Nano, she did the opening for Batum. She did the ending for Magical Warfare or Maho Senso, and they did songs for a number of other things as well. It's you can look her up on iTunes. She's on iTunes. I had actually bought the ending to this show on iTunes. Okay, because that's how good it is. It's just phenomenal. The opening, ending in the show are freaking great. But the one bad thing about the opening is that it opens up with her face just staring at you with this cliche magical girl smile, like, and it's like she thinks she's a good character when she's not even close. Like it's just seeing her face just ticks me off. That's how annoying she is. All right. So if there's any, so it's just so. This show is so frustrating. You see how like worked up I am about this. Look at me. This is why you shouldn't watch the show. Okay. This is why you shouldn't watch the show, because it's getting me all worked up over how annoying it is. Okay. And I guess you can make the argument that just because of the violence in it, it's not a bad show. Okay, if it was like, if it didn't get kind of violent with the way some of these people were being taken out, then I could understand calling this just a really bad show. But the violence in it makes it seem more serious and more legitimate than it actually is. Okay, so if I had to give this series a rating, I would give it a 5 out of 10 overall, because it doesn't do anything right. But at least the scope of the violence it forces you to take events seriously, or at the very least forget that it's completely ridiculous. Not no, that's not true. It doesn't make you forget that it's ridiculous. It just makes you focus on other things. And then after it ends, after the episode ends, and you're like, "Wow, that's ridiculous." Right? But like at least during the show, it's watchable. That's what I mean. The violence makes the show watchable, which is a kind of like a weird thing to say. But the degree of violence, it forces you to actually. It makes it dark and therefore makes it watchable. Yeah, it makes it watchable. It makes it come off as serious when it's. I mean, I guess it is serious. It is serious, and the characters treat it as serious. But it's just you as a viewer can't take it seriously because it's just completely ridiculous. Why any of this stuff is happening, you don't know. What the world is like, you don't know. The characters, you don't know anything about them. Okay. Plus, I guess you can make the argument that characters like Swim Swim do make it worth it. Swim Swim, Ripple. I guess Cranberry. I guess you could say, but I mean that's a stretch. That is a stretch. Um, it's pretty much just Swim Swim and Ripple. They're like they're like the only two characters that like are decent. Swim Swim actually does get a little bit of development here and there because she wants so badly to be like Ruler. So she okay. I'll say that Swim Swim gets development. She's like the only one though. Even Ripple doesn't really get much of it. Okay, it's just that she's like a ninja and she's awesome. So it's just like okay, well I don't really care if she's developed. At least she's awesome to watch fight and stuff. You know. But okay, so because of the fact that it's actually dark and violent, plus you have Swim Swim and Ripple, those three make the series watchable, and therefore I'm giving it a 5 out of 10. So there you go. If you are watching, if you've already watched the show, then I'm sure you know that it's not good. You may think it is slightly more watchable because of whatever reason, but I'm pretty sure my opinion's not too far off from yours. Um, if you have not watched the show and you are looking for a recommendation, as to whether or not you should or should not watch it, I would just say don't watch it. Because if you're going to watch a show because of how dark it is, there are better shows to watch. If you're going to watch a show because it has a couple of somewhat decent characters in it, there are better shows to watch. If you're going to watch a show for the fights, there are better shows to watch. If you're going to, if whatever reason you could possibly come up with to watch this show, there are better shows to watch for that very thing. So I'll give this show a 5 out of 10 and recommend that you not watch it if you haven't watched it yet. If you're one of the lucky ones, don't watch it. Okay, because it's probably not going to be worth it unless you're like really early on in your anime viewing to the point where like you don't really know what the best anime has to offer is yet, because that's how I was when I first started watching anime. Like I would watch shows that I now consider to be a 5 out of 10 or 6 out of 10 and think, oh, that's cool. That was pretty good. But then I watched stuff like Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood and Steins Gate and Hunter x Hunter 2011 and Death Parade. Like I watched stuff that's actually good, and now I'm like, oh wow, that sucked. Why did I watch that? So now that I actually understand quality, like now that I have an understanding of what anime is capable of, I can look at something like this and say no. No, I should not have wasted my time with this, but I did anyway, and that's why I'm getting it a 5 out of 10. But if you are one of the lucky ones who has not watched it yet, don't watch it. It's not worth it. And that is that, you guys. Whew. Now maybe I'll come up with another video to do at some point in the future, but for now, that's that, you guys. Rate, comment, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at BlacklistOTA, and I will see you guys next time.